Okay, hi everyone. My name is Paulina and welcome in the last part of my workshops. In the previous part, we continued creating the app worth millions to send and receive some notifications. And today we're gonna finish the app and write some nice tests. Thank you all for the feedback you gave me recently. I encourage you to leave it also today, as there will be some surprises for you, but I will say more at the end. Cool. So before we begin, if you haven't watched part 1 or part 2 yet, I encourage you to do so first. You will still can code today with us, but you need to set up Flutter, your IDE and Android device first. Let me just quickly. Yeah, you will need to set up Flutter SDK, your IDE, and your Android device, and fork repository and checkout to branch step 3. If you, however, did attend the previous part, you can just use the code from the previous part, or you can just check out to the step 3 branch if you are not sure if your code works correctly, or you just like to start from this point. Cool. So in the meantime, let me guys know if you can hear me correctly and if you are there. Cool. So in the previous part, we covered building UI. We learned what stateful widget is, how to make asynchronous calls and navigation. And today we're gonna integrate push notifications, learn something more about networking to make HTTP calls, and integrate playing sounds, and at the end we're gonna write some nice tests. That's a lot of things to do, so let's start. The app currently should look more or less like this. We finished Firestore integration to read and write our usernames from the database, so now all the records in the list are taken from the remote database, and we can add new records by using this dialog that you see on the screenshot. Today, we're gonna add sending and receiving push notifications in the first step, and later playing sound, and of course tests. Cool, so going back to the code. So firstly, small recap of what we already did. During the previous part, we built material app that contains stream builder, which takes the stream of the data from the Firestore database, and if there is a success, it returns list view. The list view builds list using list item widget, and after pressing this floating action button that you see in this corner, there is a dialog shown, and thanks to this dialog we can add username together with the Firebase token into the database. Cool, so what we are going to do today is that firstly we will add sending push notifications when we tap on some user, and later we're going to add receiving push notifications. As you can see, I already have some usernames from the previous workshop, so that's good. We have some data already there. To add sending push notifications, we need to firstly set on pressed callback on the list item. But before we're gonna do this, I will just check out quickly your chat if you have any questions. Yeah, you can hear me good. Okay, that's cool. Hello everyone. Hello Robert. Awesome. Okay, going back to the code. So as I mentioned, to add sending push notifications, we need firstly to set on press callback on each list item. So we will go to the list item. And in Flutter, there are several ways to do this. The simplest solution to use is widget called gesture detector. So to add on press callback to each list item, we will need to wrap container with new widget. As you can see, I will do it once again. I also did this in the previous parts, but let me just remind you. I'm using shortcut to do this. So in IntelliJ, there is an option enter to do this, option return. And I'm choosing wrap with new widget. I'm writing gesture detector here and confirm. Okay, so gesture detector, as the name suggests, detects gestures. We have here a lot of the options to choose from. As you can see, there are on tap, on secondary tap, on long press, on drag. So we have a lot of the different gestures to handle there. And we are interested in simple on tap. We won't handle this function inside list item. Instead, we will delegate this with callback back to the app widget. Why we are doing this? Because after tapping here, we want to invoke method from the Firebase client that we're going to create soon. And as we don't have Firebase client here, it's just more convenient for us to delegate this back to the widget that invoked this list item. In our case, this app. Cool. So to create callback, we need to create a new function. We will call this maybe simply onUser tap. Great. Now we have warning that all final variables must be initialized, but onUser tap is not. So we need to add this to the constructor. We can just add this. And one note here. So in Dart, constructors and methods can have required and optional parameters. If we specify them like that, it means they are required. But if we will add curly braces at the beginning and end, we can add, it means that they are optional and named. So now if we'll try to use them, we would need to specify the names for them. Yeah, so instead of just writing it like that, we need to specify the name. I will run reformat so it will look more nicely. Cool. Oh, it doesn't work, okay, because of the error. So anyway, yeah, currently they are optional and named. Although name parameters are optional, we can still annotate them using required annotation. So we will add this annotation to both places. Yeah, soon auto format will work. I will just need to, add this. Cool. I can add comma at the end, run reformat. Okay, great. So now these parameters, they are named. However, they are not optional. They are now required. So if we'll go to the invocation here, as you can see, IDE suggests me that the parameter onUser tab is required. So therefore, I need to specify this also. But before we'll do this, let me go back again to list item. What I would like to do is, I would like to have token, string token, from passed as a parameter to this method. Why? Because later we're gonna use this token to send message. So at this moment, I would like to pass it together as the parameter. So we will write user token. Cool. And going back to the application. Now we need to specify onUser tab. And as I mentioned before, we're going to add new method to send let's call it just send a message. This method is not existing, so I need to create this inside Firebase client. Cool. And ID already suggests me that the parameter is called token and it's string. I will just add the return type, it's void. Cool. So we have this prepared. Now, what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna send the message push notification directly from the mobile app. So now let's take a look at the class that was added here with this repository. That's called Firebase helper. Now, if you don't have this class in your project, it means that you created project from scratch instead of cloning the repository that it's in the description. So if you don't have it, that's okay. You can just clone my repository and copy this file. When you clone the repository, you can also directly check out to this step 3 branch to be up to date with what I'm already writing. Cool. Let me just go quickly to the questions once again. I will just check. In the meantime, you can of course ask me some questions. I'm trying to read them once in a while. Oh, you're saying that video hang? Frozen video? Yeah, there are some video issues there. Okay, we'll see in a while. For now, we'll just try. Maybe it's on my side problem. Okay, going back to the code. So, to send notification, normally, this is the action that would be invoked by your server, right? So in a typical mobile app, your server will decide when to send notification, and it will handle this on its own. But in our case, we'd like to send the notification directly from the app. So the idea is that after we tap, we send the notification. So I'm getting, for example, my token as I'm tapping on my username. I'm getting my token, I'm sending push notification to this token, and the opposite side, in this case it's also me, the opposite side should receive this notification, and later we're gonna play sound. Cool. So to do so, to send push notification, we need to make HTTP request to this URL. You can find more information about this in the Firebase messaging. So this is the page for the Firebase messaging package that we're going to use. And at the bottom you see a section for sending messages. It describes how it needs to be done. So we will exactly follow the steps from here. The link to this should be in the description. Cool. I will just check those issues that you mentioned you have. Oh, not this one. Okay, it's back now. Awesome. Okay, I hope it will be recorded. If not, I will just add this section once again in post-production. Awesome. Okay, cool. So going back to the code. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we need to make HTTP post request to this URL using this server key as an authentication. And just a side note, so this data, this server key, this is sensitive, and you normally don't want to store this in the public repository as I just did, yeah. But for the purpose of these workshops, it's there. So yeah, so normally you would just store it probably in the local repository and don't commit this to the public one. Yeah, but for now we're gonna use it. And the last thing is to use this body with this data to send notification to this token specified as a parameter. So this part of the body is necessary, and it's described in this section in the Flutter messaging package that I showed you previously. But this part is optional. This is just for showing notification in the system notification center. So you will later see that the notification, if the app is in background, it will just be shown there as well. Cool. So going back to the Firebase client. To send notification, we will use package called HTTP. From this package, I'm not sure if this import will work. It doesn't usually work. Yeah, I need to just import this manually. Let's leave it. Okay, cool, there. So I'm going to use package HTTP and HTTP Dart, which has post method. Post method has few parameters. The first one is URL, so I'm going to use the URL from the helper class. The second will be probably headers. This is map. Yeah, so this now will be a lot of the boilerplate code that we just need to write to make it work. But you can just either follow me or copy this from the repository. It's just something that I need to write. Yeah, so we're gonna say what content type is, and as I mentioned, we need to authorize with the server key that we have. I can show you how to, so if you would like in your project, if you would like to do something similar but with your own Firebase project, you can go to the Firebase console. You will probably create your own project there, and you have this data under project overview. So I'm not going to show this now, as there is a lot of sensitive data there also, but you can find the server key in this project overview tab. Yeah, cool. So authorization is key, and I'm gonna use, I don't know if I showed this before, but this is called string interpolation. So inside the string, I'm allowed to use variables like that. If I specify this in the curly braces, it means that the variables is not client, sorry. Yeah, it means that the whole statement inside this curly braces should be, it's a variable, should be interpolated there. Cool. So this is the headers, and the body, as I had before, it is Firebase helper get message body with the token taken from the string. And what we need to do is we need to encode this to be a JSON object. Yeah, so now it's just the map. We need to create JSON object, so string from this map. Cool. You can read more about this thing in the Firebase messaging package, and you can read more about JSON encoding in the link that I will mention in the description, or it's already there. It's about making request networking. Cool. So that's it. This is how we are sending post request to this URL with those headers and this body. Now we can leave it like that. It should be okay for now, but for the debugging purposes and just to see if it works, we can assign the response that comes from this one to the response variable. And as we learned in the previous workshops, if we'd like to use await, we need to mark the method as an async. It is automatically, of course, future of void, but it shouldn't matter in that case, as we are not gonna wait for this one. So we are taking this response, and we can, for example, check the status code for this one, just to make sure that if it's not appropriate, so let's say it's less than 200, or maybe bigger than 400, then we will throw some exception just so we see this. Let's go, just error fetching data. Okay, good. And for now I will just print the response body, so we will see if we have success or failure. Cool. So now it should be already invoked from the list item. That's correct. Now I will try, in the meantime I have some new names. Awesome. You can still add them here. That's good. We will have more data to test. Great. So we can run the app and see the result. Yeah, the colors have changed. It means that the app is rebuilt. I'm gonna tap on my name. And as you can see, there's sent message, success, yeah, awesome. This is the response coming from the Firebase. The most interesting part is there. Success 1 means hooray, we've sent a notification. Failure means we don't. Usually you will have some error messages here. The most common errors that you might occur during this is that you have either wrong token. There might be some additional characters in this token that you added, or you're just you just have it wrong, or you have wrong server key, or just wrong the authorization part. But now it works, so it's awesome. Cool. First thing, big thing done. Let me just quickly check your chat. Where is that? Okay, there. Awesome. Yeah, let me know, guys, if you want to repeat something. I know there one section has been missed because of some internet issues, but I hope you're still following. Cool. So going back to the code. Now the next thing is to add receiving notification. Yeah, so we have sending. Now we'd like to see the result and receive this notification. To do so, we're gonna add listener that will start with the app start and will listen to the push notifications. So first thing to do is that we need to change app from being stateless widget to stateful widget. And once again, I'm running shortcut to do this, keyboard shortcut. Once again, option enter, option return, I don't know how it's called, and convert to stateful widget. Why? Because stateful widget has a very convenient method called init state. This method looks like that. And this method is called only once when the widget is created. So it's a good place to initialize things. And if you would like to do initialization in the build method, so if we will, for example, set listener for something, or try to do one thing that should be done only once, there is really high chance that it will be called multiple times. Yeah, because widget might rebuild multiple times, so we just don't put data here that should be called only once. Instead, we put this inside init state. And also, if you want, for example, to subscribe to something, you should do it here in init state, and then you can unsubscribe in the dispose method. Yeah, this method was shown previously when we created text edit controller. So the schema is very similar for subscribing to things. But for now, we were gonna just need the init state, no dispose. So in the init state, I will make a call method init on a Firebase client. I'm creating new method. Yeah, this will be void, no parameters. Great. In this method, I'm gonna use Firebase messaging that comes from, actually we should already have it here. Oh yeah, we added this previously when we were getting tokens. So I'm gonna use this Firebase messaging object. If you don't have it, you may look in your pubspec file to check if you have Firebase messaging package, but you should have at this point. So now I'm gonna use it. To init, I need to call configure method from the Firebase messaging. And this configure method has few convenient callbacks. There is on message to get messages, on background message, on launch, on resume for more lifecycle aware callbacks. For now, in the simplest case ever, we're gonna just use on message. On message, I can look into the signature. On message is a parameter, has map string dynamic. That is probably our message. Dynamic. And it returns just future of dynamic, so nothing in particular, but it tells us that the function needs to be marked as async, as we will not return anything from this method. Cool. So it's that simple. All you need to do is to call configure and specify what should happen when we get the message. So for now, we will just print this message. We will call it message received, and typo, received. And later in the future step, we're gonna add play sound here. But for now, we just want to see if the message is received. Cool, I'm gonna run. I'm not using hot reload for that, because when you are, I think maybe it was changed in the newest version of Flutter, but usually the way it works, if you change the widget from being stateless to stateful, the hot reload it used to don't work properly. So the best way is just to run hot restart once again. Cool, colors have changed, awesome. So now we should see two logs, right? One is from the sending message. Oh yeah, in a different order, but the effect is okay. So we are receiving sending message and also message received. Now the thing is that unfortunately we get twice of them. And why is that? So there was a bug in the Flutter, unfortunately, but I will just double check. So I'm currently on the Flutter version that is a little, it's not up to date. The current version is 1.17. So in the newest version, this 1.17, this bug is fixed. But for the people using the same version as I do, or even lower, you will see this callback being called twice. But you can believe me, I tested this with the newest Flutter version and it works correctly. So yeah, just believe me. Cool, so now we see that message is received. That's good. That's already most of the part done, right? The almost last thing that is left is to play sound here. Let me just quickly check your chat first. Okay, you're still there, awesome. Cool. So the last thing to do, so our app is complete, is to add playing sound here. I will, for now, I will remove this log. I will just leave it this for now, so we can see if the notification is sent. And playing sound. So if you cloned this repository, you should see in the assets folder an MP3 file called yo sound. So this is the sound that will be played when we receive the notification. Oh, and before that, I can just quickly show you how it works with the background notifications. So I will just run, I hope I have it here. Yeah, cool, so I have terminal. I will just make, create this, I will just send this push notification using curl. So you can see the data here is very similar to what we had in the Firebase helper class. So what I'm doing is just I'm sending this push notification from the terminal. I'm sending this. Cool, you can see that message is received there. What I will do now is I will leave the app, and you should watch this notification center. So I'm sending this once again, and hooray! You can see there is a workshops app, you've got new message, and once I tap this, I am back in the application. So this part of the body that I showed you, this one, this is exactly for responsible for this showing this system notifications. Yeah, so you can just, if you would like to have this notification, you can just change this body and title and use it. As my application doesn't have an icon, it was just the Flutter default icon shown there. But if you will have the icon, you can also set up proper assets, and this notification icon will be shown there as well. Cool, so it works. Awesome. Now going back to playing sound. As I said, we have this asset with the sound here. The two things that we need to do is, first one is add package for playing sound. This one that I'm using, there are many of them, but this one was just the easiest to implement. It's called Audio Players, and don't mix it up with Audio Player because that's a different package, but this one I'm using is called Audio Players. You can find the link in the description. And the newest version, I believe, is this one, but you can feel free to double check that. So the first thing that we need to do is add this package. I'm gonna run pubget. Yeah, works, okay. And the second thing that we need to do is to add this asset to the assets section. So as you can see in the pub spec, there is also nice explanation in the doc there. To add assets to your application, add an asset section like this, assets. I can just uncomment this and make sure that there are only 2 spaces there. If you are not sure, you can just place it under this uses material design section. And I'm gonna add asset. For me, it is from the assets folder. It's called Yo Sound MP3. Okay, cool. So now assets are added to the application. I need to run pubget and probably rebuild the app. But now the sound should be included in the app file as well. Great. So now I can use it here. The easiest way to do this would be just to directly call this audio from this place. But as we like to have our things separated, I will create additional class to do it. I will call it just player. This class player is just a simple class that will have play sound method. Yeah, for now like this. Why I'm doing this like that instead of just calling, from here? Because I like to separate responsibilities. So as you can notice, this class is handling only the Firebase things. So I don't want to include audio player package there, as it's something that separate class can handle. And Firebase client doesn't have to know about the details of the implementation for the playing sound. So I'm just separating responsibilities. Cool. Now all we need to do is call audio cache from the audio players package and use play. We need to specify it's yo, no you, yo sound. Cool. And it should work. Now I can use it there. I can either declare this here, as I already have some dependencies, let's say, there. So I can just declare player there. And now I can use this player. Let me know if it's not too fast. I've already wrote this a couple times, so okay. Player.play sound should be enough. Now the tricky part is that I didn't think this through, so I'm not able to play this sound to you. I will hear this in my earphones, but you wouldn't probably. So I will just run this up and let you know, and you need to believe me if the sound is gonna play or not. Cool. So making hot restart. Oh, what a nice colors. I will just change it. Okay. Yeah, so now I will tap on my name. No. Or maybe you can hear that. No. Let me know if you can hear this. I will just make it louder. No. Awesome. So it works. Wow. I can also send a couple of other notifications. If you guys implemented this, you should hear the sound if you have the app open. I'm not sure who you are, people, but let me know if you've got those notifications. Yeah, so, feel free to use this code with your own Firebase projects, and you can just create your own Yo app with your friends and let me know about the results. So, going back to the presentation, where is that? Yeah, okay, it's there. Going back to the presentation. So, we did push notifications integration. Awesome. We integrated media. You can read more about adding assets in this link. It should be linked in the description. And now it's the time for testing. Cool. Let me just quickly check your comments if you have any. Heard it. Yo, awesome. That's really cool. Really cool. I will just play with this a little bit more, and so we will hear more yo sounds. Cool. Testing. Now is the slide for Let's Code, which we already did. And time for the final part, testing. So, in the Flutter, we have... Oh, someone sent me just a notification. How awesome. I forgot what I'm talking about. Unit testing. So in Flutter, there are three different kinds of tests. There are unit tests to validate single functionality. It can be done for a class, for a method, for a function. In our case, this might be the test for, let's say, Firebase client. The second type is a widget test that validates if UI works correctly. I cannot focus now because of this yo sounds. We can write the widget test for any kind of widget. And the third type is the integration test that checks larger part of the app to see if the different classes work together correctly. So today we will write the test for the app. So it will be widget test that will check if the UI shows correct state according to the data returned from the Firestore. Awesome. Going back to the code. I will just quickly go back to the presentation for a moment. Okay. Cool. And going back to the code, yeah. Awesome. You can send me those notifications. These are really super fun. I'm sending you also too. Cool. So, firstly, we need to create new file. This file will be created. Oh, I don't have it here, but it should be under test directory there. So I'm creating new directory test, or it might be already in your app, and I'm creating new file, which I will call just main test. What we will do is we will write test for this widget, this app widget, and we're gonna check for three things. So depending on the stream data that we will get from the Firebase client, we'd like to check that if the data has some error, we will show this text. If data has, is still awaiting, we will show loading. And if it's success, we will show the usernames. So this is what we will do with this test. For tests, exactly as for the non-test files, non-test app, the entry point is also main method. So I will write main. Okay, oh sorry, I had some problems. Never mind. In the main method, we will use test widget method from the Flutter test. You should already have this Flutter test in the dev dependencies. If you don't have it, yeah, just add. Dev dependencies are the dependencies that are not used in the production code. So it's just used for the developer purposes like tests, like some config files, some auto generation, etc. This test widget has two parameters. The one is description. So in this description, we will say that, let's say when Firebase returns success, that's very general, then usernames are visible. Yeah, so I have this convention of writing tests in a when then or given when then convention. This is just a nice way, you will see later how the tests are shown, and in case of any error, it's just easy to track where it comes from. So this is just my convention, but you are okay to use any other you would like. And as a callback, there is an actual body of the test. And in this callback, the first and the only parameter is widget tester. And this method is marked as async. Awesome. Cool. So it looks like this. Now, widget tester is class that connects widgets and the test environment. So we are simulating here, showing widget. We don't actually show the widget on the device. So important thing to note here is that widget tests, even if they are UI tests, like in this case, I mean, they are UI tests, but they don't demand device or emulator. So they run just as the unit tests in the test environment. It means that they are very quick and they don't need any device, as I mentioned. Cool. So what we would like to check, that first thing is we're gonna use widget tester to load, let's say load our widget. Our widget is called app, and we're gonna pump this frame. So pump is, according to the documentation, triggers a frame after duration amount of time. In this case, there is no duration, so it just triggers a frame. It means that the build method will be invoked just once again. So it's the simulation of the widget being fully loaded. So when we pump widget, when we load widget, the next thing that we would like to check is that we can find, this is also from the Flutter test, we can find the widget by type. This type would be list view, and we can find exactly one widget. So it means that we are expecting that there will be exactly one widget of the list view type. Sorry, I just formatting. Oh, now it looks a little bit better. Okay, so I can run this test now, and as you can tell, probably it will not work, or is it? No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because the way we create this application widget is that all the dependencies that are used inside, like this Firebase client, this player that it has underneath, they are all used the real implementations. Yeah, so we are trying to use the Firebase client as it is, so we are trying to connect to the database, etc. So it will not work. The way we would like to make it work is that we want to separate this dependency from the app. So we want to mock the behavior of the Firebase client. Thanks to this, we will be able to provide the data that we want. So one time it will be error, another time it will be success, and check the behavior of the widget. So to do this, the first thing we need to do is to extract this Firebase client and pass this in the constructor. So we will move this Firebase client into the app instead. We will not initialize this yet. Instead, we will create constructor to do this. Now, all the occurrences of the Firebase client must be preceded with the widget, because the widget is the actual widget. So if you'd like to access Firebase client for this, we can do it using that syntax. Cool. Now I just need to replace all the occurrences of the Firebase client. Great. And here I will initialize Firebase client once again. So as you can see, the app should not change at all. I can run it once again. Oh, sorry, not test. I can run the app once again. The app should not change. Everything works exactly the same. But the difference is here that in our test, I can actually specify Firebase client that we like to use. So now I can have control over the Firebase client, and I'm separating the dependencies. So now this app widget is not dependent directly on the other. Cool. So next thing to do is, as I said, to mock the behavior of this Firebase client. How can we mock the behavior? To do this, we will need to add additional package. This package is called Mockito. The newest version is, I believe, this one, but again, double check that before using. What is Mockito? So Mockito is a library that allows us to mock dependencies. And what does it mean? So usually when we test something, we want to check it in the isolation, to make sure that this specific part of the app works or not. The only exception are the integration tests that I told you about, when we actually want to check if many things are working together and they communicate with each other. But in the unit and widget tests, we want to have isolation. To test one specific part, in this example, this widget, we need to separate this from all the dependencies, as I already said, and this is what Mockito allows us to do. So the first thing to create mock for this Firebase client is to create new class. Let's call it Firebase client mock. Needs to extend from mock and implements the class that we would like to mock, in this case Firebase client. It's just empty class. I need to probably provide import. Cool. So now I can use it. I will declare new Firebase client here. Let's call it just client. Great. And now I can pass this Firebase client mock there. Now we can mock some behavior for this mock. So we can tell, for example, that if some action occurs, then the specific data should be returned. In this case, the first test we want to do is that the Firebase returns success, then usernames are visible. So from this Firebase clients, we would like to return some data. So we can do it. We need to do this actually before pumping widget. So we are making all the mocks there. And we are telling that when Firebase client runs getUser method, then answer with the data. The data that is returned from getUsers is stream of list of user. So I will use stream, let's say from iterable, should be okay. And in this stream, I will just provide some data. So I need to actually, I need to specify a list inside the list. That's because stream from iterable needs a list, but our data return is already list. So yeah, I need to just tell that I would like to return a list of lists of users. So the first one would be, let's say, Joe. Sorry, I have named parameters, right? Oh, and I need to specify token. Is it correct? Sorry, no. There are not name parameters, they are just regular, but instead I need to have them too. So now let's say there will be some Joe, there will be some Katie, there will be some Mike. Cool, those 3 users. So what I did is that I told my mock how it should behave. So the thing that you need to know about the mock is they are not the actual objects, they are just the fake representations. Yeah. So we need to specify the behavior that it should happen with this mock. So now, whenever in my test, whenever this method will be invoked, getUsers, this data will be returned. So we have an option to modify this behavior. Cool. So now the first thing that we will check is that there is some list view, but we would also like to check if the specific usernames are shown there. So I'm going to use Finder to find text jaw, and we need to remember that we decided to uppercase our usernames, so the name that will appear in the list will be actually uppercase, and it finds one widget. And the same with the Kate, sorry, and Mike. Cool. Let's check this test then. And doesn't work. Oh, sorry, it's not Kate, it's Katie. There is a typo there. Once again. And hooray, works! So we have our test has passed. So now we correctly checked that giving some data from the Firebase client actually draws this data on the UI, and this data looks as we assumed. Awesome. So that's the first test. And now, as you can probably expect, we're going to add tests for the two other cases. So in the app widget, where is that? It's there. In the app widget, we are also checking for the error and from the connection state. We can try maybe this case. So now we will cover loading. I'm going to just copy all of this because it will be pretty much almost the same. The only difference here is that I will change the input. So instead of passing data, I will pass nothing. But I'm not able to do this using stream. I need to use stream controller. So stream controller, as the name suggests, is something that controls string. So thanks to the stream controller, we are able to stream some data or not, as we will see. I need to, okay. So IDE suggests me that the value of the local variable controller isn't used. Okay, cool. That's not the suggestion that I wanted to see. I will just Okay, so to use this controller, we need to get stream from this controller. So now we are telling that whenever Firebase client getUsers is invoked, then we will return stream that is controlled by this controller. And now the suggestion should be different. Yeah, suggestion tells to close instances of Dart Core Sync, because this is some kind of the subscription. So at the end of the test, this is just a simplified version, but at the end of the test, we will just close this. So it's cleared. Cool. So what we thought is that we created stream controller, and normally with this stream controller, we can add some events. So we can just stream some values, yeah? But in this case, we don't want to stream any values. We just want to tell that the stream controller is created, but no data has been sent already. So we are mocking this behavior when it's in the connection state of waiting for some data. And what we will check is if this text loading is shown. So instead of we are not expecting list view anymore. Instead, we are expecting text loading to be shown. Now we're gonna run and see the result. Yay, it passed. That's cool. It means that our widget works properly so far. So when it's success, it shows list view. When it waits, shows loading. The last thing to check is this error. This error will be very, very similar to the first thing. So we can just also copy this one. Oh, the thing I forgot. We should actually change this test name. So now instead of when Firebase returns success, but when Firebase waits for the data, then loading text is visible. Yeah, so we can just easily track test results. And in this case, when Firebase returns error, then just error text is visible. Cool. So here, instead of returning stream from iterable, I would return stream, should be something like error. Yeah, there is error. And just a simple exception. Cool. So now instead of, we don't expect list view, we expect text, and this text, according to the view here, it should be something like error and probably exception. Let's check this. Yay, hooray! All the 3 tests have passed. Cool. So I guess that's it. We can also, of course, create more additional tests. We can, for example, for this widget, we can test if tapping on this action button shows a dialog, or yeah, or I don't know, things connected with this list item. Yeah, it's up to you what you would like to test here too. But yeah, I feel like it's a really good base to start with the widget testing. So going back to the presentation, we covered all of those. Now going back, I will just quickly check if you're there. Awesome. So yeah, so I guess that's it. That's the end of the workshop series. Thank you guys all for your engagement. Thank you for being part of these workshops. It was really cool for me to have an experience like that. I will leave this app for a couple of days if you would like to go back to this. But if you want to test more, you are welcome to use your own Firebase project, and this way you can have your own Yo app. Cool. So as a reward, I would like to give 4 $25 gift cards that you can use in one of the Australia's top stores. So if you will fill the feedback form, I will just choose together with GDG Sydney group the winners. And I would like also to thank GDG group, that is a Google Developers Group Sydney, that hosted me through those 3 events. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you very much, and see you next time. Bye.